This is the DJI Avata, and it is pretty much the best cinewhoop you can buy. I'm a big fan of this drone, but it has some limitations and some things that are actually holding it back. I'm gonna talk about the 10 things that I think DJI can do to make this better. And if you agree with me, go ahead and hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and we'll see if we can't get DJI to make this thing even better. So there are a lot of people that don't like this drone for a lot of different reasons, and I think that's because they want it to be something that it isn't. And hopefully those aren't my gripes, and if you disagree with me, again, let me know. But people don't like this thing because it's plastic and they think that's cheap. People don't like this thing because it's made by DJI and they kind of own the drone market. A lot of people don't like this thing because it's expensive. Drones are expensive, and yeah, this one is even more so, but there's a lot going into this thing, and those aren't necessarily my gripes. Now, I've even crashed this thing. Actually, I wrecked it and had to send it back to DJI, and that did kind of make my list, but not in the way that you might think. So let's talk about 10 things that I think could make this drone even better, and things that you may want to consider before you go purchasing it. What's up everyone, Jack here, and if you're new to the channel, we give you honest reviews. I'm not going to tell you why this is great and you should buy it. I'm going to tell you what I like and what I don't like about these different drones. Let me just start off by saying I do really like this Avata. The camera is fantastic. I've flown a lot of other cinewhoops and this is by far the most stable, and this camera is fantastic. Plus the FPV feed that's HD. Yeah, it's the best there is. But this drone does have some limitations and some things you may want to consider before you buy it. So let's get into that. And the first thing that is really disappointing is the app, right? This does use the DJI Fly app, but maybe not the way you think. It just serves as a mirror. If you want someone to watch your FPV feed from your phone, you can do that, but you got to connect this long cable to the goggles. It's really pretty cumbersome and it's kind of obnoxious. I would really like to be able to use the app to change, I don't know, settings in the drone. You got to do all that in the goggles, and that's just moderately annoying. So why is the app not actually an app? It's just kind of a viewing capability. It's obnoxious. I'd love to see that app have some actual functionality. And the next thing I got would make this the absolute hands down best cinewhoop on the market, and that would be giving it some flight modes. DJI has the ability to add flight modes via software, and this has none. Now I know that a cinewhoop traditionally doesn't have flight modes, but we've also never seen one from DJI. Why not add a rocket, a droney? You know what I'd really like to see? Active track, or maybe like an active track assist. I get they don't want to add active track to something that doesn't have obstacle avoidance, but just being able to help frame your subject as you chase it in the center of your screen would be fantastic. Is that asking for a lot? Probably, maybe a little bit too much, but oh my gosh, would this be awesome if it had that. Okay, my next gripe is that it's not sub 250 grams, and that's not actually a really big deal to me, but the way that it is built, it's over 250 grams, and it feels a little bit heavy. Why would they not just make it, I don't know, make each of these props a half an inch bigger? You get better flight time, you get more stability, you get more maneuverability, or make it smaller and lighter. You know what, I'm fine with 7-8 minute flights. If I'm sub 250, I can fly over people. There are a lot of different rules that don't apply to 250 gram drones, or won't apply once they figure out that remote ID compliance deal. But yeah, gosh, it really would have been nice to be under 250 grams. And since it is over, why not make it a little bit better, right? I like the small form factor, and I get there's give and take with all of that, but you know, slightly bigger props or smaller would have been better in my opinion. All right, my next gripe is this SD card slot. That is just absolutely obnoxious. It's difficult to get the card in and out. It's difficult to connect the USB-C port here if you don't want to pull this card in and out. Why would they not put it here on the bottom, or maybe out the back, underneath the camera, out the top somehow? That would have been a much better placement. It's just really obnoxious being able to pull footage off of this thing. Yeah, that was just kind of an oversight. It's like, oh yeah, we have to add storage, and oh, where are we gonna put it? Here? No, that was dumb. My next thought actually is something that I've never experienced before, and that is head tracking. I've never really used it, and if you have the motion controller, you can kind of look around and fly the drone, and it's awesome. It is a really unique experience. I really enjoy using head tracking with this motion controller, but I actually don't like using this motion controller. I prefer a more traditional remote, and I almost exclusively fly with this guy. Wow, would that be awesome if we had some head tracking capabilities with this traditional remote. It just allows you to get some really dynamic shots and see things around you while kind of continuing along that path without having to manipulate the sticks. Now, I know you can do those things if you're a really skilled pilot, but it was pretty neat, and gosh, that would be cool to see head tracking with a traditional remote. Now, while we're on this subject of remotes, they only ship with this guy, the motion controller. And this is cool, it's neat, it's actually super intuitive, but it's not how you fly most drones. And if you fly drones like I do, you want something like this. This is, a standard DJI FPV remote, and this came with my DJI FPV drone. And I really do like it, but not everyone is up for the smaller gamepad style remote. So why not have other options? DJI has this FPV remote. We've got switches, we've got gimbal dials, we've got extra buttons. Why can't I use this remote with the Avata? That would be awesome. I like the larger size. I just kind of like the feel of a full-size remote. Not having this option is kind of disappointing. But I think there's actually an even better option for some people out there. And that's this. This is the DJI RC, and it's got that built-in screen. Now, I know it doesn't have all of the buttons that you may need, and certainly you're not going to fly manual with this, but I think for those people that, really struggle with the goggles, some people, it creates a little bit of nausea. It'd be nice to be able to have this built-in screen where you can just kind of look here to see what you're flying through, not worry about the goggles. It's O3 compatible, so certainly this would work. They just need some firmware to make it happen. I'd love to see this. This would be great for a lot of people. The other thing that's disappointing is you can only get it with this remote. There are no other package, no other options. It's, hey, buy it with this, and then either you can get the really expensive goggles 2 or the goggles V2, which, again, we'll get into that confusingness later. I would love to see other options. Yeah, you can buy a couple of extra batteries. Their Fly More combo, which is just batteries and a charger. That's not really a Fly More combo, it's just extra batteries. So I would love to see different packages with the Avata, different options, different remotes, a little bit more customizability for people that do different things with the quads. Now, my next gripe has to do with these propellers, and there are a couple of things I don't like about them. One, they create a really high-pitched scream, and that's actually pretty typical of Cinewhoops. The ducted design kind of aids in that as well. But also, I stripped one of these screws taking a prop off, and that was kind of obnoxious. I really like the design that DJI had with the original FPV drone. These props are great. You just kind of hold the motor, push and turn. You can take it off. Hold the motor, push and turn to get it back on. That's awesome. I love being able to swap props quick and easy on my drones, and this is absolutely the easiest way to do that. Would have loved to see that on the Avata as well. There's a lot of different things they could have done with these props to make them quieter or easier to get on and off, and DJI just didn't do that, and that's really the only option we have right now. Now, I've talked about how I really like this camera, and I do. It's fantastic. The stabilization on it is really good, but I would have loved to see a few more options in terms of frame rate. I don't always shoot in high frame rates, and I'm limited to 60 frames a second, even in 1080p. Why not offer a 30 frame per second option? So the highest frame rate I can get is 100, and that's at 1080p. You can shoot 50, 60, or 100, but not 120, which is kind of what I would have preferred. So there's that, just the lack of options. Having a few more choices would have been awesome. Okay, so the next thing is kind of the repairability. Yeah, these prop guards are really easy to swap out, as is this plastic cage on top. But if you break something on the inside, and I did, I burnt out an ESC. I crashed this thing. It was kind of my fault, but the motors wouldn't stop spinning, so DJI said they'd replace it for free. Yeah, it was the ESC. It burned out, and it probably shouldn't have, but it did, and they took care of me. I sent it back to DJI. They did not charge me, and they even sent me an SD card because, well, it took them a little over 10 days to get it done and shipped back to me. So, you know, the thing is, be persistent, ask them where the heck it is, and, you know, they'll feel bad and send you an SD card. At least they did for me. But I'd like to be able to change pretty much everything on this like I can any of these other quads that I have. So yeah, you can fix some stuff, but not everything. And it's probably going to end up being a little bit more expensive than you'd like, but that's kind of the nature of these drones. Drones are not cheap, and this is not this is not a hobby that you can do without spending a little bit of cash, unfortunately. So there's that. Yeah, it could be better, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so the next big thing that I want to mention is the yaw washout. So if you're flying this aggressively and you kind of spin, sometimes with ducted drones, they get what we call yaw washout, or in a really bad case, we call it tumble and it falls out of the sky. Now, that's not unheard of for ducted drones, and that happens. That's a design, not a design flaw. That's a design flaw of all drones, not just the Avata, that happen to have ducks. And yeah, you can probably tune that out a little bit, but that's not why you buy this thing. You didn't buy this thing to tune it. You also didn't buy this thing probably to fly freestyle, which is pretty much how you make that happen. You got to fly really aggressively. Now, I don't think it's a big deal, but some people do, so I thought I'd mention it here so that you're aware of it. Now, one thing that might be helpful to note, and I haven't seen people talk about this too much, is this button right here. This is the "oh crap, I messed up" button, and I don't know what to do. You push this, and it will save your drone. It will literally, if it's upside down, flip it around and keep it hovering in the air. This is something that they put on their FPV drone, the original FPV drone, and it's awesome. It'll stop on a dime, it'll flip it over, and it'll just kind of hover. You can kind of take your goggles off, relax, compose yourself, figure out what's going on, and then do what you need to do with your quad. So yeah, that yaw washout, not ideal, but it exists on a lot of things, but this button doesn't, and that's gonna save you, so don't forget about that. And my last gripe isn't necessarily drone related, it's more these goggles. These are the Goggles 2. Awesome, these are fantastic, love these things. Not to be confused with the Goggles V2, which are the original goggles that have some updated specs. And what I kind of am disappointed in, a couple of things. One, I just have a USB-C port in terms of out. I don't have an HDMI, so I can only run the video to my phone, which we kind of talked about earlier. That's obnoxious. Also, they changed the jack here, the input plug for power, so it's not the same as the other goggles, and I don't know why they did that. That's obnoxious. Plus, I don't know why they didn't include a cord like this where it's USB-C to iPhone. Actually, I don't think I got any iPhone cables in the box. And we know that DJI pretty much hates Android users anyway, so kind of an odd choice. But yeah, these goggles, they're great, but just little things that they could have done that they didn't bother to do that they probably should have. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Avata. Yes, I do really like this drone. I'm going to keep making some content on it, but it's great. It is absolutely the best Cinewhoop on the market. You can fly it through a house. It's incredibly stable. I'm going to have some of those built-in safety features like that button that'll stop it on a dime. It's got the ADS-B. I'm pretty sure it's going to be remote ID compliant. So there's lots of good things going on with this drone, but it's not perfect, and I wanted you to be aware of some of those things. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. If it was, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help support us as a Patreon, we'd love your support. Hey, good luck everyone, and happy flying.